Okay, you can absolutely count on Kwacha Kuseni to make sure that we bring you all the interviews and all the conversations that you want to hear. If you're just tuning in, my name is Black Gold.
And of course, my name is Jace.
And you're listening to Kwacha Kuseni. And in studio with us, we have some very important and distinguished gentlemen. We have Mr. Matongo Maumbi, who is the Zesco Limited spokesperson, and Mr. Wezi Mbula, who is the Chief Security Officer for the Southern Region. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you. How are you?
We are fine, thank you very much. Now, definitely, I think Zesco is a hot topic at the moment. It's definitely on everyone's lips. And off air, you were just telling us how much your phone rings off the hook. Now, just on a personal level, how much more difficult has your job been this year compared to other years?
Before load shedding, the job was very well. Other years, I was enjoying my private life and just moving around at will without thinking of is someone looking at me and wondering, is this a guy who's switching off power? Now, from the time the appointment came to be the spokesperson early March, just before load shedding, life literally just changed because now the phone keeps buzzing.
Yes.
And where you receive maybe 100 calls in a day, and of the 100 calls, maybe 80% are unknown numbers.
Wow.
Or wanting to have some information on what's happening, some help on electricity and things like that. So it's been very busy.
You dived headfirst into the deep end.
I've tried to answer as many as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Wezi Mbula, you are the Chief Security Officer for the Southern Region. Maybe you can just elaborate on what that is. People may be saying, Chief Security Officer, maybe they're thinking you are there with a gun somewhere on the Zesco premises. Maybe you can elaborate what the Chief Security Officer ensures is done with the Southern Region, which is, you said, 5 provinces.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
First of all, it's Zesco South. It's not
Southern Region. Zesco South. Okay.
Yeah. What a security officer does, chief security officer does there is to ensure the security of installations of Zesco in the 5 provinces, like I said earlier. So ensure the security of those installations. And when we talk about installation, we have generation installations. We have the transmission installations and we have the distribution installations. So many people are acquainted with the distribution installations such as transformers, armored cables, the conductors, the service cables. So basically those are things that the Chief Security Officer ensures that those are well secured.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are just going to dive right into the hard stuff, okay? As Zesco representatives, as Zesco, we have had proclamations in the past from even the prior ruling government to say, you know, we've ended load shedding, we will no longer have load shedding. We've had a lot of proclamations from government as well prior to our current situation to basically just ensure the public that we will not experience 8 to 14 hours of load shedding ever again. So in that same vein, of course, we do understand that the weather patterns are unpredictable, but with regards to the planning and the meteorology department that is surely looking at these trends ahead of time, why do we still find ourselves in a position where we are basically abruptly notified of load shedding yet again? We don't get like a month's notice or 2 months or 3 months. It's usually very abrupt. Why do we find ourselves in that situation?
We found ourselves in this situation basically trying to save enough power in as early a time as possible. So you may want to know that technically, all things being equal, we should not experience load shedding in Zambia the way we're experiencing now, for a simple reason that we have a national installed capacity of power generation of 3,600 megawatts. So this means that if everything is running okay, the weather is okay, we have enough water, we have enough solar and everything, all the power that we have, it's enough to power the country, because currently the national power demand is standing at 2,300. So when you look at 2,300 against the installed capacity of 3,600, we are well beyond what the demand is. Now, The current situation has left us at 1,600 in terms of generation capacity, meaning we can't generate more than 1,600. And then now the demand is at 2,300, leaving us with a deficit. Now, with a forecast that was done in terms of looking at the outlook for the rest of the year, it was found that load shedding had to start immediately. Otherwise, would end up with having 14 hours of load shedding, 15 hours of load shedding if we left it much later. This was also informed by the announcement from the Zambezi River Authority, the ones in charge of the Kariba complex, who manage the waters there, and where they advised that this year they are allocating 8 billion cubic meters of water. This is against 15 billion cubic meters of water that we had the previous year, and about 20 or 22 that we had the other year. So the pattern has been going down. So when they shared the forecast for the rest of the year, and that the water allocation for both Zambia and Zimbabwe at 8 billion cubic meters each was not going to be changed, it was felt that load shedding could start later, but when commutations and other things were considered, it was decided that load shedding should actually start now. Otherwise, we may end up with a bigger power deficit if we continue generating at the pace that we are. So all things being equal, we shouldn't be talking load shedding. And that's where now we have to start implementing a number of projects that should give us a better reason not to have load shedding anymore in the future.
Okay, so even speaking like what you have said, where in the last 3 years there's been a reduction with what the Zambezi River Authority has been able to allocate, isn't that already a trend that should have been noticed to say, okay, because if that is the trend, it's unlikely that even next year we will see an increase, we'll probably see a decrease again. So even at the beginning of, let's say, 2023 or at the end of 2022, in that planning for the year and just the outlook for the weather, and definitely there's climate change that is happening globally, why do we maybe not stagger the load shedding to maybe have started to conserve energy instead of us having a instant 8-hour block? Why not start it mid-year last year, ease the public into it? What goes on behind closed doors?
At that time, we were aware of the reduced rainfall, but we didn't expect it to be that reduced. We thought maybe we could have normal kind of rainfall that would give us enough water to power our generators. In July, August, somewhere there in 2023, we did start importing some power from Mozambique to help in terms of reducing or to avoid the need of load shedding, so that we could provide power to the people. So this is one of the things that the current corporate leadership team is working hard on, to ensure that our dependence on hydropower has been very high. From time immemorial. We are standing at 87% dependent on hydropower. So when we have such a thing, it means that we get hit very much, because when water is gone, it means you can't power your generators. And from the last couple of years, you can see that the rainfall pattern is actually getting bad to worse. It was like this year, the weather people are saying this actually could be the worst that we've had from the time we started keeping records about 100 years ago. So we've had to start some projects. Some of them are not yet online. They are taking. Some of them are coming online. Hopefully in the first quarter of 2025. These are the alternative sources of energy, so that reliance on hydro should not be there, because we need power 24/7. And then when we have those projects online coming to beef up the hydro, we hope that we can reduce dependence on hydro to about 50%. So the other 50% can be for alternative energy. Imagine if we have all the planned projects run, and then during the day we will run on solar. and then in the evening we power up the generation of electricity through hydro, and then that power mix can help the country very much. So it is something that we've started planning and implementing to ensure that we don't get ourselves in such a situation anymore.
Okay. So, Mr. Mbula, I will maybe just throw something over to you, a question over to you. So, you did say that you're the chief security officer, and that does entail a lot of you just securing the installations and all of that. We do see a lot of reports of vandalism, a lot of reports across the board, and a lot of people, I think the general public sometimes will complain and say, what is load shedding, what is vandalism? Because personally, in my area, we do have what we would say outages due to vandalism. A lot of the time, extended periods. So what exactly are the measures being put in place to ensure that there is a reduction in the vandalism? And when we're talking of vandalism, how often do we get the substations vandalized? And what are the measures that we're putting in place?
Thank you so much. Maybe I can start with what vandalism is.
Yes.
So that our people can understand what it is. So Zesco has a network through which the power supply moves. So it will move through the conductors. If you look outside there, you are seeing those wires that are supported by those poles, wooden poles. So those are conductors. So power is being transmitted through those wires, which are called conductors. And from there, it will go into transformers. From transformers, they will either be step down, step up of the power to suit the kind of load. Then it will go into a building, which may be a dwelling house, or it may be some business premises. So when you cut any of this network, when you cut it, that is called vandalism, and the effect is that there will be no power flow. So people are fond of cutting some conductors. They steal all of them because they have some copper in them. They go and sell to scrap metal dealers. Others will vandalize the transformer, which does the step up, step down of the power. When they vandalize it, they will remove some what we call transformer windings inside there. They go and sell to some scrap metal dealers, and others will vandalize the cable that takes power into someone's building, which may be a dwelling house or a business premises or so forth. So when they cut, the effect is that there will be no power that will be supplied. Okay, that leads to losses. Okay, the customer that is off supply will not be able to pay, so the company is losing revenue in that manner. Okay, the same customer again is having problem because he's supposed to use the power for heating purposes, supposed to iron, others use it for economic production and so forth. So at that moment, they will not be able to do the activities. As you know, electricity is the backbone of an economy. All right. So vandalism is simply you cut that cable, and you may just cut and run away, or just you cut and steal it and sell it. So that is vandalism. All right. So it's frequent. Like I can say, in this first quarter of this year, we recorded 450 cases of vandalism. Okay. When you compare to the other quarter, the previous quarter, we had 399 cases of vandalism.
Wow. Okay. So on that note, we will be right back after the break with just more from Mr. Mbula on vandalism and all those statistics. Do stay tuned. If you are just tuning in, you are listening, of course, to Kwacha Kuseni. My name is Black Gold.
And my name is Jace.
And in studio with us, we do have representatives from Zesco who may be able to answer some of those burning questions that you have. Of course, that is Mr. Matongo Maumbi, who is the Zesco Limited spokesperson, and Mr. Wezi Mbula, who is the Chief Security Officer for Zesco South. Now, gentlemen, to jump right into it. So we are about a month and a half into our load shedding program, but we have had 4 different load shedding schedule releases. I think just about every week we've had a different load shedding schedule. Currently, we are back to the 8-hour load shedding from the previous 4 2-hour blocks that we were getting. And, I think the official press statement that was put out is that this was due to customer and public outcry and feedback. But I just want to know, where do we get this information? Because generally, we're currently conducting a poll on our Facebook page, and it seems that the general public seem to favor the 4-hour blocks more than the complete non-stop 8-hour block. So why do we have this just, I would say, up and down with the schedules? Because Zesco has made the schedule, but why the constant changes? Why the, I would say, the inconvenience to the customer?
Thanks a lot. Ideally, load shedding is for at least 8 hours in a day, whether it's straight, whether it's staggered. So we are looking at load shedding for 8 hours. So when we started on 11 March, we started with 8 hours across the country. And then within the first few days, there was serious public outcry that the 8 hours straight was not working, especially in residential areas and a few other places. So in the third week, we did implement the 4-hour staggered load shedding in Lusaka only, by the way. And the 4-hour was not done in the rest of the country. The rest of the country remained on the 8 hours. So in Lusaka, we did do the staggered 4-hour by 2 load shedding. It came with a backlash because we started experiencing unexpected delays in restoration, where we had to have maybe some emergency repair works because maybe a line has bent, or maybe there's an overload in usage, and then there has to be a good power balance so that the electricity grid remains stable. So once a grid is unstable, they have to see which lines should stay on, which lines should go off. Now that goes beyond the people that are managing load shedding, because now it is something that is there to protect the electricity infrastructure in whole. And in some instances, it's an issue of vandalism, where we restore power quite all right in time, but then you find that a specific area still don't have power, only to find that a transformer is gone or some service cables are actually vandalized and stolen. So in the process of repairing or replacing those things, time moves. So the 4-hour one, as ideal as it is, came with it with some very unexpected challenges. And we ran that for 2 weeks. The first week was actually quite horrible. Based on the phone calls that we would receive as Zesco. Even our customer service center was very overwhelmed. Every second the phone was buzzing of people asking or complaining why they still don't have power when power is supposed to be restored at 14. It's being restored at 15, 15:30, and in some instances even 2 or more hours later. So after that initial public outcry, the 4-hour staggered also seemed not to have worked well because of the unexpected challenges that we experienced. So from this week, we've gone back to the 8 hours and see how this is going to play out, if it's going to have also the challenges that we've been having. But prior to this, we started conducting a survey last week, which is posted on our Facebook page, to try to get a full understanding from the customers in terms of which one do they want. Do they want the 8 hours or do they want the 4 hours times 2? So I'm yet to get the results. I've told the team that they should not give me the results, because even me as a customer, I have a preference that I would want, but I don't want to sway people because they say, oh, if the spokesperson wants this, then let's all go for this. So we hope that in the next 2 weeks, we'll have a conclusive report, and then come 1st May, or even earlier, we will have a load shedding timetable that will stand the rest of the year. What will only be changing is the rotational times. If this week my power has gone at 6, the way it goes this week, then next week we would expect that my power from my area will go at 10, the other week power will go, say, at 14, so that we all experience the different time zones in terms of the rotational basis for load shedding. So otherwise, this has been the changes that we've been having, trying to consider from our end, and also especially looking at what suits best the customers. However, you will take note that in places that are purely industrial places, then they prefer 8 straight hours, and them they have never changed, because they are saying we are better off having no power for 8 hours straight, and then 16 hours straight we have power, so that we can power up our machines for a longer period of time, as opposed to we do 4 hours, then you give us power maybe for 6 hours, again you cut us off and things like that. That's more an inconvenience. And then also the farming community, there's been a drive for winter cropping, so that simply means there's a lot of irrigation that will be going on. So the farming community they prefer to be load shed during the day, for a simple reason that at night from 22 to 06, there's a special tariff that applies to agricultural sectors that is much lower than the normal tariff. So they would want to take advantage of that and economize in terms of power bills that they may have at the end of the month. So the industrial area, the business areas, those have remained on 8 hours continuously, and it will continue like that. Then in terms of residential, once we conclude with this poll, then we should have something now that we say, okay, this from now on should not change unless otherwise. So that's been the up and down that we've been having with the schedule.
Okay, so speaking of the schedule, we currently have, as you've said, back to an 8-hour block. So there are currently different groups. So it's Industrial A, Industrial B, Farmer F. For the residential side, it's Group C, D, and Group E. So just to look at the timings right now, and this was effective Monday, 15th April. So Industrial A is 5 a.m. to 13 hours. Industrial B, 16 hours to 24 hours. Farmers Group F, 8 hours to 16 hours. And on the residential side, Group C, 6 hours to 14 hours. Group D, 12 hours to 20 hours. And Group E, 14 hours to 22 hours. So we do have a question from our listener saying, well, for the residential, the same way we have Industrial A, Industrial B, and Farmers Group F, for the residential, why not cut power uniformly? For example, all residential areas should have a set time, like let's say 6 to 14 or 14 to 20, or why do we have the Group C, D, and E for the residential? Why are we in groups?
Everyone is in groups. If you look at even the industrial, the timings are different because we use power differently at different times of the day. So if we load shed at the same time everyone, then that would defeat the essence of load shedding. Because the essence of load shedding is that at every hour, there must be someone who is not using electricity by deliberately switching them off through load shedding. So every hour, there has to be somebody who is switched off. Now, if we say residential, we switch off from 8, as an example, to 16. It means from before 8 and after 16, all residentials will be on supply. And knowing the human behavior, the usage becomes extremely high. Because what we're experiencing now, actually, with load shedding, what the intention is to conserve some power. So if we have, say, as an example, Raquel, you use 20 units of electricity every month when we have no load shedding. We expect that when we have load shedding, your consumption should not be 20 units because we are cutting off power from you for 8 hours, or like you are rightly complaining that sometimes it even goes to 9 hours. So when we cut power from you for 8 hours and then your bill, your units that you have to buy at the end of the month again relates to 20 units a day, it means your usage has gone high up. So that's where now we are calling upon the customers to not overuse electricity because they want to catch up for the lost hours. That would defeat the essence. So we also need customers to be energy efficient in terms of using appliances that are energy efficient. You look at heating your water. Do you heat your water using a pot on a stove or use a kettle? Of course, we will encourage you to use a kettle because it boils water faster and doesn't take so much power. The geysers, do you turn on the geyser for how many hours? Or do you use a solar heating element? Or you want to use the electricity, the grid one? And a lot of other simple things like, I'm happy here, power, the bulbs are off, you have enough external light. So you are conserving power. Now imagine that one individual saves maybe 1.5 volts. How much power would be conserved if, say, 500,000 people are doing those simple energy conservation kind of practices? So the customers have also to play a hand. Otherwise, we'll reach a situation where we are no longer talking about 8 hours. We'll reach a situation where we will now be talking for longer than 8 hours because the projected usage that we have is being defeated by the actual usage that has increased unnecessarily from the customers because they want to lump up everything that they are doing, cooking, All the plates are on, ironing, everyone is ironing, the heaters are on, those who have air cons, everything is on, and all the gadgets are on, defeating the whole purpose of load shedding. So if we manage load shedding very well, this is only the second month, we will run with it very well up to the end of the year. Because load shedding is not set to end in March, in June or July. It is going for now up to the end of the year. The end of the year being that we hope that by November, October, we would have had some rains, and then that will beef up the generation capacity. So the way it is now, we're a bit exceeding our generation capacity. So it's going lower because the water levels are going lower, because once we generate, that water flows out and it goes to the Indian Ocean. So the waters are going lower, but with the computations that we have, we will be able to manage this up to the end of the year.
Okay, well, on a personal note, as the unofficial spokesperson for Group D, I'm appealing, change our block. I'm appealing. Maybe take us back to 9 to 17. 12 to 20 is not cutting it. Okay, so...
so when you have the 12 to 20 this week, next week you should not have the 12 to 20. You should have maybe the 6 to 14. So that's the essence.
Okay.
So that's
Wait a minute.
We did.
So that's the rotation that we're talking about. So this week you complain about the 12 to 20. The following week, maybe you'll be back on 6 to 14. The other week, you should be maybe 14 to 22. So that we all feel that pinch of that.
Indeed, we all need to feel that pinch. So you had mentioned earlier that, you had an overwhelming customer feedback and complaints, and the call center was overwhelmed. Speaking of that, and maybe Ms. Tambula can also speak to this, with regards to response time, and I mean complaint response time, fault response time, I think, for lack of a better term, the public outcry is that there's a bit of inefficiency there to just talk about it, because really and truly, you find, like just last week, I had a colleague who was, I guess they had no power for 2-3 days. And there was that, they kept calling, so Ms. Tambula, maybe this one would even go to you. Is it that there is too much of an overwhelming fault complaints, or what goes on? Or can we maybe look at maybe Zesco creating some jobs and employing more staff to deal with some of these things? There's generally a complaint that the response time is very poor. So maybe you can help me with that. What happens there?
I'll deal with the response time from the security point of view.
Yes.
Then he will deal with the technical side. Yeah. So when vandalism occurs, there are some procedures that must be done. For instance, one has lost a service cable or a transformer. So what should happen is that there has to be a police report generated, and then that police report is presented, then a replacement is made. So in the process of pursuing these procedures, you're going to find that there is some kind of slow response, which a customer will say, okay, there's slow response, but there are just some procedures that have to be followed. So that's what I would say from the security point of view. He will tackle the technical point of view.
Yes.
So what we have is a surge in terms of complaints that are coming from our customers. We stand, I think, about 90% of calls being answered, and about 10% or so calls not being answered because all the customer service lines are busy. So what we have is an issue of first in, first out. So when a fault is reported, they are lined up according to how they've been reported, and the response team also acts on those according to how they've been reported. Now, in some instances, that gets to be overridden because maybe in another area the fault is a bit lighter than in another area. Maybe in another area it's a transformer that is burning. So over somebody who has lost, maybe has, as an example, maybe has just lost power, but we don't know the cause yet, and then there's somewhere where there is a transformer burning. So there, a prioritization would be for the transformer that is burning, so that we don't get to inconvenience more people. So what we've had is there's been a serious rise in terms of false complaints, and our team, though they are managing, is getting a bit overwhelmed. You find that this side is vandalism that has happened and they need to work on it. This time it's just another fault that is there and they need to work on it. So in that time of moving from place to place, that is what is causing the delays. In some instances, especially with the calls that I've received, is that the customers do not report a fault. Some instances we will know about the fault, but in some instances we will not know about a fault until we are told, and then we do investigate and then find what the fault is. So when there's a power supply interruption, especially uninterrupted, we urge the customers to report to Zesco so that we can quickly follow up and deal with that matter.
Okay, well, we are taking a break, but we'll be right back. Remember, the phone lines are open. Do call us up on 0955997997 or 0979192485 if you do want to interact with these distinguished gentlemen from Zesco. And listen, give them the hard-hitting questions.
Group D.
Group D, my Group D, my fellow Group D, come and write for us, please.